Alright, today I'm going to be doing a walk around on Bill Rollo's '89 Mustang. Bill reached out to me originally looking for another Mustang, so I found him, came across a roller down in Kentucky, and then he ended up going and purchasing it and bringing it back to me in the goals of building an Ultra Street car. So originally this was a small block Ford with a F1 A94 on it, and raced in Ultra Street for a little while. Bill had this beautiful paint done by a guy in the Minneapolis Metro. Chrysler Deep Red Cherry Metallic with a tri-coat, I believe. Very beautiful paint. It came with this 25/3 spec chassis, which needs a new recert, I just noticed. Good to 650 or slower in the quarter. Technically, this car could be recerted to a 25/2 because it's 2,800 pounds or lighter. So I'll have to check that out and into that next time. One thing that was done by the previous fabricator that I really liked is they put this tubing. They used some of their bars that went to the rear and moved them upward about 4 or 5 inches, and it allows a lot more room in the rear suspension area. It's all covered in carbon tubs, and then from the main hoop forward is stock floor. So first of all, we'll crawl under the rear and take a look at some of the suspension on this thing. 15x12 welds on the back with an ET Street R 275/60. Maybe somebody could tell me. I've heard these tires are the same compound as the 275 Pro. Does anybody know for sure? I'd like to know. Go under the rear here. It's got a racecraft wing. Stroud 430 chute, which I always use on everything with an air launcher. Only way to go on the chute. And then push bar attachment. Use a 1/2-inch quick pin for your golf cart. Going to the rear, it's got a racecraft 9-inch. Very nice piece. It looks a little dirty right now. The undercarriage has not been cleaned yet. Anti-roll bar. You can see how much room that floor offers being raised up like that. Battery mount in the rear. TBM brakes. One really nice thing that Racecraft does with their housings, puts gussets on the lower control arms, so you're not going to rip those babies off. And then this car has aftermarket torque boxes. Up there, still triangulated. Looks like they were custom done by the chassis guy before. Racecraft wishbone. Not technically needed on a triangulated upper forelink, but keeps the car a little straighter when you got a bunch of power. Santof reservoir shocks, low dollar travel sensor, PST drive shaft, strange ultra aluminum center section. See, this car's got a bunch of tubing below it as required by the 25/3 chassis. I like that they droop that bar down a lot, so it doesn't have any drive shaft clearance issues. Tie down hook. And then I did modify the Racecraft wing with these custom sill plates. I like how they look when they're a little bit lower on the body instead of being up here. optic armor glass all the way around. It's 1/8 inch thick. It is riveted in. I preferred to do the countersunk Allens, but this car was had windows in it. Stock quarter windows. You're probably thinking, what the heck are all those bars in the side? Previous fabricator put in a couple redundant bars here. I mean, I guess it's stronger than them not being there, but those don't really need to be there. That's a kind of a ridiculous amount of bars. This center one technically doesn't have to be there either. Got what they call the funny car hoop in it. Single Kirky seat. Impact harnesses, which I kind of like. I was checking them out. They have these very easy to use release mechanisms on it. And then a Stroud window net, which just has the old seat buckle style, but I really like it actually. Has the hinge there, so rotates down out of your way. Attaches up there. Whatever you do on a window net, you want to make sure that you can droop it down and get it out of the way. Otherwise, it'll just be a pain in your butt. Got a Shonit Composites dash surrounding a Holley 686 screen. Motion MPI wheel. Got the trans brake button there, bump box button here. Best shifter on the market, M&M transmissions with the air solenoid that kicks it into the next gear. Fire Bottle brand 10-pound fire system. This is, I would rather see two 10-pound systems. This one's got a single nozzle over the driver right there that pretty much shoots down into your crotch. Hopefully you have your helmet shield down like you're supposed to, so it doesn't spray it in your face. And then it has another nozzle right there in the firewall. Sprays the back of the engine. The benefit of two systems is you can have two levers and you can choose if you're gonna douse yourself with fire retardant inside the car and outside the car, or just outside the car. All the wiring and Holley Dominator system and a lot of the small items with startup and tuning, he takes it over to Matt Bell at Redline Performance over in Bloomington, Illinois. Matt and his guys are always helping out over there doing all Bill's tuning and a lot of the wiring. Got a speed wire, quick kill, Holley G meter. One nice thing about this fire system is it's got a pin in the handle, so when you don't want the fire system to be activated or active, you can put that pin back in. A lot of them only have the pin at the bottle, and it's such a pain in the ass to get back there to put the pin in that most guys just leave them out. A motion CO2 system that's powering or providing air to the parachute, the shifter, and now the boost control. Up above, we got a parachute handle, a big wide view rear view mirror so you can see all the people that are behind you all the time. Got a LED strip light that Redline put in so you can have some illumination if you needed. A helmet hook for motion, and then also there's a hook over there for a driving jacket, which I need to get one of those for mine. It's a good idea. Strange quick connect. I think that's a titanium 6-inch extension, which all the race car guys know, but you know, it's a nice addition to have on a lot of cars, being able to remove the steering wheel and get it up out of your way. Just offers you so much more room to get in and out of the car. And then there's two Zeus fasteners on each side of the dash. So if you need to access the wiring, you can take the whole dash out, and all that stuff is along the firewall. And then it has removable doors and a Zeus-on front clip, which you might say, oh, it's really too much of a race car for me. But once you have that, you really never go back. I mean, even if you're racing a small tire, all steel, all glass class, the benefits that allows you for working on the car are just, it's so nice. You know, it offers you so much more room to get the engine in and out, to do services on the car. So don't think of it as only a lightweight thing. Really, half of the benefit is just servicing the car with it. Take a look at the transmission. It's got an M&M Turbo 400. Some of the wiring hasn't been done yet, but reed case, reed belt, Moroso pan, reed tail housing, removable cross member there. This car has one of my high side belly pans on it, which is quickly removable with Zeus fasteners. But something to think about over a diaper or a drip tray is, if you can afford it, have a fab guy make you one of these high-sided. If you blow the rods out, most likely you're going to get a bunch of crap coming out of the sides, and the last thing you want is hot oil blowing all over your headers if it's a forward-facing deal or a turbo setup. So some of them I put a little quick release flapper in there so you can get to the oil drain plug, but this one doesn't have that. Front suspension's a Racecraft K member again, arms, they're 2-inch drop spindles, TBM brakes, and then Santif struts. And then that's also an M&M bolt together converter. Benefit of a bolt together is you can take the black part and the aluminum part, split it apart, and replace your stator for different track surfaces, whether you want it looser or tighter. One thing I always like to do, tranny cooler lines come through the floor right there in bulkheads, and then route up to the door jamb area. And then I have a little bracket that mounts to the cage that allows your transmission pit cooler to attach right there inside the door jamb, so you don't have any hoses laying on the floor, and they're solid mounted, so you can get them in and on, in and off easily. Transmission overflow. And then this is most of the cooling system. 5-pound water tank. It has a pump inside it. Pumps out through one of the 1-inch ID hoses up through the firewall, and then wise off to 2 of these lines, which go into the back of the head, flow through the head, come out, go back in those hoses, Y into that 1-inch, and return to the water tank. So this has got a cast aluminum Shelby block in it that has no water, and then the heads have been dry decked, so no water flows to the head surface. The benefit of that is you're just putting water in the heads to keep the valve seats and the combustion chamber cooled off, while keeping the block a little bit more solid for consistent roundness on the bores and less distortion down there on the bottom end. So just enough cooling. I know Bill's other car, we did take that system off of it, and he hasn't had any problems yet with the methanol, but a little bit more forgiving when you have the water flowing through the heads. You don't have to be quite so concerned on cool down time. Go over the engine combo a little bit. Small block Ford 9.5 deck, and that has TFS high ports, Holley high ram intake, motor plate and mid plate were done by me, and then I just built this turbo system. I'm gonna clean my lens a little bit. Oh, there it goes. I got a stupid thing on my phone where if I zoom in, it goes blurry because one of my lenses is broken. So, oh well. The determining factors with how this turbo kit was positioned was I wanted it to be high enough to gravity flow the oil back to the pan without having a pump. I wanted the tubing to be as light and as short as possible, and I wanted to be easy to work on, somewhat forward facing so the turbo can get some fresh air out of the center inlet of the front clip. So downpipe short and as light as possible, but technically not as light as possible. This one's made out of 16 gauge stainless, which is relatively heavy, but if anyone has a source for 22 gauge 321 stainless, put it in the comments. I'd like to know. I'm not a good titanium welder yet, but I'm trying to learn that. And then aluminum just isn't consistent enough for me to put on a car. It just doesn't hold its shape well, and I don't want a guy to have to be welding cracks at the racetrack. So the front tubing structure was already here on this car, but I mounted the turbo with a Maven mount. And then these headers were modified, 3.5 inch V-bands down to a 3-inch hot side with some double slips from Phoenix Fab, some motion wastegate merges, and this beautiful GT55 Garrett based 88 from CRT, 3.5 inch cold side, V-band on the bottom, and then a motion dual seal on the top with one of their throttle bodies. Front drive system. Got an Innovators West balancer, which I really like because it has the 12 magnets for the crank sensor built into it, with it firing on the missing magnet. A Jones mandrel with a HTD belt, driving a mechanical fuel pump from Aeromotive. It's a spur gear pump with a Waterman mount, and then some spacers I made. That pulls fuel off this little 3.5 gallon cell with a 16 line on the bottom. I added a little flat top here and a threaded cap, a little bit more reliable than plastic junk. And then all the hoses on the car is Brown and Miller Racing Solutions, very lightweight PTFE crimped connections. So that's all done with this little machine right here. Just put it up in there, crimps it on there. On the oiling side, you got I've never used these before. My first one using a FluidWorks oil pump, single stage external, so it pulls off the oil pan with a 16, and then up through clear view filter, which needs a new sight glass. So then you can see all your contaminants that are deposited up there in the oil filter. And then out the other side, back into the side of the block. If you need a turbo kit, give me a call. Got a couple starter bump buttons when you're adjusting your valve lash, and you can do a cylinder, hit that button, bump, 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 to the next cylinder. Very handy thing to have on each side of the engine. Front structure on this car was lightened up a lot. The strut tower areas were all cut away. Really nice for spark plug and header bolt access. And then one little strip retained, so no one can say the strut towers are not connected to the frame rails. Redline offers the EGT bulkheads. Got a laser ride height sensor down here from Loop. Tells the car if the front end's too high, and if it's going into a wheelie, it can drop some timing or boost and hopefully pull it out of it. I would like to move towards plastic cells instead of these aluminum ones. The aluminums are pretty time consuming. I've been looking around for different sizes on plastic cells. I'll probably use a plastic on the next car. I don't know if I talked about that. I chose to put a little adjustment rod, a little, basically just a rod to keep this tube in the same position. So when you have it on and off, you don't want to have it off an inch and then be trying to fit the front end on and having that tube in the wrong position. And it gives a little bit more support on the flange area, so there's not so much stress on that. So tabs on the front. Whenever you're building a car, you should always put weight tabs everywhere. Front, mid, rear, all over the place. Those two tabs mount a 46, I think it's 46 pound lead bar or lead tank across the front. The crankcase ventilation goes through these two Cunningham Motorsports burn down tube adapters, and then this is a quick release. This little, just hit that little button, pull the tube off so you can get the valve cover off. Those goes down through the car, back of the car to the burn down tank, and then out the trunk lid. Any car that's got a couple thousand horsepower should probably have one. So then if there's a catastrophic engine failure and all that pressure's in the engine, that oil's going to go somewhere, and hopefully it doesn't go out somewhere that's under your tires and get you loose and into a wall. So if you can get that potential vapor back to the tank and the trunk, it's better. Like putting actually Matt Bell did this, but it's always nice to have a little switch or a valve on your fuel tank vent. That way, if you're going to let it sit for a week, your methanol is not absorbing water from the atmosphere. 17-inch welds on the front, empty tires. I think that's everything on this beast. Next stop, it'll head over to Redline, get the initial startup and tune done. Matt will work his magic there, and then I'm sure they will probably take it south somewhere to do a little testing and then start racing. Oh, I just stepped on my bead roller there. Alright, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would do different. See ya.